You know, at a point, there was agric used to be the mainstay of Nigerian economy. It's like Ogun State government is looking in that direction, you know, a shift from the usual reliance on oil and other revenue. What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, it's not, it used to. It's still a very substantial contributor to the Nigerian GDP. If you have looked at the trajectory between 2014 and now, you'll discover that agri contributes between 21 to 25% to our GDP, which is the largest contributor, even more than the oil we speak about. And that's where, of course, people begin to see country leverage where they have competitive edge and advantage. We have good land, we have good weather. God has given that to us for free. All that we just need to do is see how we can leverage on that to provide food security. And I think this is what we should really be doing. You know, I keep referring to this statement by Lee Kuan Yew that he was so distressed and surprised that nations that are blessed with good land and good weather, rather than have their best in agriculture, they're having their best in classics. And I think this is what we really need to focus on, and many other state governors really need to focus in this area. We should not be having issues with food security as a nation, because we have all it takes. As we speak, only 35% of our arable land has been cultivated. Now, about 65 is yet to be cultivated. We, like the president said in his inaugural speech, he wants to see how to move that number to about 65% so that we can have substantial investment in food production. And then, of course, we can also feed not just Nigeria, even the Sahel and other sub-Saharan African countries. So this, for me, is a good move, where people know what to do with land management, which is a very critical issue in Nigeria. And people who want to farm, they don't have access, and people who cannot farm are having access to lands. Now, if you have people who are well trained in this area, then, of course, land management becomes very easy, and then we can really make progress in terms of providing food for the nation.
Yeah, and I think it shouldn't stop at land, because that is one step. It is major because, like you mentioned, some persons do not have access to land. Some even go as far as renting land to farm, and that is already eaten into whatever profit they will get after the farming season. So it shouldn't stop at land. I think it should also go to the extent of providing the necessary equipment. And I like that the training would also bequeath to this agency's knowledge, the knowledge that is needed for up-to-date farming. So we need to come to terms with the fact that the kind of farming that we're practicing here is obsolete, and it also reduces the amount of yield that we would have. So if all of these are put in place, then I'm sure that maybe Ogun State will just be the state to copy as far as agriculture is concerned in Nigeria.
That's strategic, the collaboration between Ogun State and World Bank. Let's see what will come out of it. Moving on, in a bid to address challenges in the poultry farming and business sectors in Nigeria, Dangote Cement has launched a poultry scale acquisition and empowerment program. It's looking like a season to look in the direction of agric. This time around is poultry farming, you know, a collaboration with Dangote Cement. They see the need for people to be trained and to be retrained when it comes to poultry business in Nigeria. Talk to us about the prospect in poultry business in Nigeria and what you make of this collaboration, whereby, you know, we talk about PP, we don't have to rely on government to do everything. Now we have a private organization like Dangote Cement taking up this initiative. What does that suggest as the way to go when it comes to partnership and then bringing private entities into this kind of business, agri-business?
You know, incidentally, on Sunday, I was speaking in church concerning Christian social responsibility, which, of course, CSR. We also speak about corporate social responsibility, things that, of course, corporate bodies would need to be good corporate citizens. And I think for this, I think Dangote has done well, but he needs to do more, really. It's important that as a company operating in an environment should realize that there are different stakeholders who are affected by your operations. And then you must also find a way to share value with those communities. So we say kudos to Dangote Group for this initiative of trying to see how to empower people who live within the precinct of his business operations. And I think that is commendable. Now, speaking to poultry farming, and this is really huge, because you see, we also are living in an environment. You know, I was talking to church people on Sunday, and I was saying to them, when God gave us a command, for example, in Genesis chapter 1, and saying 28, said, manage this earth for me and replenish it. And I was asking the young people, you all eat chicken, how many of them do you rear? Because most of these chicken or frozen food we still import. Some are still being sneaked in through the back door into the nation. And this is something we can do effortlessly. And then make so much money out of it. And then empower a lot of young people who will be self-employed in this direction. And I just do hope that these young kids take advantage of this good gesture from the Dangote Group and use it to make livelihood for themselves and better the society at large.
Yeah, talking about livelihood, this is the season because we're just a few months away from Christmas. So this is the time where poultry farmers actually smile to the bank. And part of the training also focuses on processing, which is a major challenge for poultry farmers. Remember a time when we looked at poultry feeds, which is expensive. So when you want to buy maybe a sizable chicken and you're asked why is it so expensive, the first thing they tell you is that feeds are expensive. So I believe with this training, some of them can produce for themselves. And yes, this looks very much like a CSR. But I just feel like maybe in time, Dangote might also be going into production of poultry feeds to further encourage poultry farmers. It's a good thing.
Dangote is already farming. And that's why they're actually integrating. Yes, of course. He's already in farming. He's already big in farm. And that's why you see, of course, the last time we're talking about him integrating now the whole Dangote group, from the salt making to the farm and to the Dangote technology, everything fused in one. Now it become one Dangote group. So this is quite very, very interesting, and that we really need young people to begin to look toward this direction. I was speaking to my son this early morning and I said to him, I hope you are thinking business. You're not looking for somebody to employ you.
Okay, because the white collar jobs will not go around for everyone.
That's the impression that you have to take up a job. But this time around, the narrative is
being an entrepreneur, you can create a job for yourself.
That's where value is.
Yeah, that's where value is. Talk to us. What do you think government can still do to encourage young people? Because the narrative out there is you want to go into tech, business, entertainment. But when it comes to agric, there seems to be this general apathy among the young people. What do you think government can do to encourage more young people like what Dangote is doing now? Because the impression is government should create the job, but government can't create all the jobs. But it's important for also private entities to come into this terrain and create more jobs too, and then even empower young people to be able to go into farming. So what do you expect that state governments can also do, or local government can also do, to encourage young people to go into farming?
You see, there's this thing they call the bandwagon effect, where you see success story in a particular industry. You see, everybody will tend to swing to that industry. And I think that's what that's actually needed to be done. The president has spoken about creating agricultural hubs. See, a child just needs to see me who is a farmer doing well. And once they see that we are doing well and we are making good or cool money from it, they will not do farm. Why a lot of people are discouraged from getting into farm is the fact that they cannot see the value for people who are farming. And this is a huge source of discouragement. And I think this is where we keep saying that, of course, there need to be a whole lot of investment in the value chain of the agricultural products. Now, if the agricultural bank, for example, is putting money not just in seedling and all these things, also putting money in processing, for example, so that there are off-takers from those who farm, and they can see money in real time, people will be encouraged. And I think this is what government really need to do, so that we can actually brand our farmers, properly brand them, and see those who have made success in this direction. We also showcase them. And this is very important, because this will stimulate and motivate young ones to say that, oh, this guy is doing farming and is doing great like this. There's a potential here. I want to get into this side, and of course, maybe I will also become like this person. But once they see their parents who are doing whole and cutlass business, and they see the level of suffering, nobody will want to get into that kind of a farm system. Exactly. And I think this is where we need government to really intervene big time and see how we can encourage local technology to drive this farming, that it will be effortless.
Exactly. Role modeling, it happens naturally when you see what one person has been able to do with a particular thing, and you see that because young people, no disregard to the efforts of the Gen Zs, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of them don't want to get dirty. A lot of them don't want to do farming in the crude way. So when we're able to modernize farming, and they see the reward, because then when you modernize farming, you can do a lot more. Your harvest will be more. So it makes it attractive to them. And then naturally, they'll want to get into that.
All right, your emphasis is about technology. And now, in another dimension, you know, talking about security now, the Turkish Defense Company have secured a contract to enhance security measures along Nigeria's border through the deployment of cutting-edge unmanned aerial vehicles and other advanced solutions. Now you have a partnership between a Turkish defense company and Nigeria, talking about Nigerian border. There has been this concern about the porosity of the border. You know, it is naturally not possible to have all the personnel deployed to the border because of the terrain. And now you have this partnership bringing on board technology, the need for tech solutions when it comes to the issue of security. Idahosa, talk to us. What do you think could be the impact of, you know, bringing technology into area surveillance or into security as regards this story?
Well, I think it will go a long way really to help us. And one of the issues that we have had to encounter is the inflow of small and light arms into the country through these borders that are unmanned. And a lot of things are coming in, and the people are having access to guns that they are using to commit a lot of heinous crime within the environment. Now, with such surveillance process put in place, at least you will be able to see what's happening and see what is coming in and what is going out. But you see, for me, really, I don't see border issues as a crisis. You know, this narrative came some 8 years ago when we began to try to explain away the real challenge of Boko Haram and the header farmers crisis. And we say, oh, it is because of the outflow of things that are happening in the Sahel that is pushing people in here. The real truth of the matter is that there are a lot of people who are so much in this business entrenched, whether they are Boko Haram, whether they are bandits, whether they are kidnappers or whatever. Many of them are actually Nigerians by birth and by name. And these are the real people we need to actually look out for. No matter how much of vehicles or guns that you may procure to fight crime and provide security solutions, if the people have nothing to live for, they can die for anything. And I think this is where state governments need to take the bulls by the horn and see how they can make society livable. Encourage young people, empower young people. Businesses need to intervene so that we can take a lot of people off the streets and they will not be prone to be used as mercenaries or criminals.
Okay, quickly, I'd just like to chip in that I know that the military is the security arm that is tasked with the protection of land borders. They are to protect the territorial sovereignty of the nation. But over time, we've seen that they've come right into the city and seem to be competing with the Nigeria police. So if they can actually be deployed where they should be, and let's take away complicity. It's one thing to survey. What do you do with the surveillance? What do you do with what you see? That's another thing. So if complicity can be out of it, where security forces are not complicit with those who perpetrate these crimes on the land borders. And we have the appropriate authorities stationed where they should be. And then we can also foster a kind of cooperation between African countries, because there seems to be a common challenge within African countries around that area. Then with these surveillance, I think we're good to go. But with surveillance alone, and you still don't have the right people who should be there doing what they should be doing, and you still have some level or a high level of complicity, it's still a far road.
Just before we sign up, you see, the military are not in the city because they want to be in the city. Now, when you see an average Nigerian, they are no longer afraid of the police. And so, police can't deal with crime.
It has to be
the only person now they can see that they still have respect and regard for is the man who is wearing the camouflage. And this is the real issue. Which also means that the police need really to up their games to regain confidence and be able to actually man the center. And I don't think that the military just want to come in. They are not competing. It's a necessary evil that they are trying to see how to complement the effort of the police people to provide security.
Is it really a necessary evil, or they were invited? And over time, we began to see an abuse of such invitation.
No. The issue is that people are not afraid of the police anymore.
Then we should rejig the Nigeria police force.
Yes, that is where
they should be.
Yeah, now that you're speaking to it, the police, that's what I'm saying, the police need to regain their honor. Those days growing up as a child, when you see a police, you run away. You see the way people are abusing police on the road, you will just be wondering, because they have lost their honor. So I think that's the work that the IG of police need to do, so that the police can begin to retain its honor and have respect, that when people see them, they can be deterred. As it is now, it's only the military that people are afraid of. And that's why you see them having to come within the society to do it. And they are already overstressed.